Part 80. The Sweetness of the Seventies. Author, Chi-Sing Cao. Chapter 793. 791. Yuan Hua's eyes lit up after hearing this. The name is very good. Yuan Hua smiled. Did you get it yourself? No, teacher, he picked it for me. Tang Pingan chuckled. I also like this pen name very much. Yuan Hua was envious, but not jealous. He said, well, it's very good. Then I'll start reading. They are all in traditional Chinese characters. Although Yuan Hua can understand them, he cannot write them. Because it is a serial, I finished it in less than an hour. Yuan Hua asked, Tang Pingan, do you also use traditional Chinese characters when submitting your manuscript? Yes, Tang Pingan said, Xiangjiang and Taiwan all use traditional Chinese characters, but they can't understand us when we write simplified characters. Oh, Yuan Hua was a little disappointed. She also wanted to submit an article. Tang Pingan admired Yuan Hua's generosity and achievements very much. One of the poems published by the class was one by Yuan Hua. He suggested, Yuan Hua, if you have any ideas, talk to teacher He, maybe she can explain it to you. Confused. Yuan Hua's eyes lit up, but then he felt embarrassed and said, I'm afraid of disturbing teacher He. Haha, didn't teacher He say that? If you have anything to do, you can go to her, let alone what you want to write about. Tang Pingan said, we are just students now and cannot repay the teacher's kindness, but we will put this kindness forward, keep it in mind, and repay the teacher in the future. Yuan Hua thought about it, nodded and said, okay, I'll sort it out. I wrote some poems. Let's talk to teacher He. Tang Pingan's 2 magazines were circulated to each other in the class. They read not only the martial arts novels written by Tang Pingan, but also other novels, poems, etc. in the magazines. Although it was just 2 simple magazines, it greatly broadened my horizons. Some people began to write secretly, and then asked He Tian for guidance. He Tian picked them up and looked at them one by one, shaking her head and laughing. Teacher He, what are you laughing at? Teacher Wu asked, especially after seeing so many manuscripts in front of He Tian. Haha, someone else has submitted another manuscript. He Tian smiled and said, students are very motivated. Did you write very well? Teacher Wu asked. Now you, class 1 of the 1980s Chinese department, are the popular class in our school. Not only do you have good discipline and good grades, but you are also so talented. Excellent. He Tian smiled. I'm afraid of dampening their enthusiasm. There are many that are not suitable for writing martial arts, but when I saw others writing and publishing them, I followed suit. Some of them are not suitable for writing novels. I also wrote it, and I didn't even know how to tell them. Haha, tell the truth, Teacher Wu said, drinking tea and joking. He Tian is the only one in the office who is busy every day. Others are very free. After classes and homework corrections, everything is fine, and they don't want to do those messy things. No, He Tian shook his head, these children are all talented, otherwise they wouldn't be able to get into our school. It's just that they are young, their vision, imagination, and cognitive abilities have not reached a certain level, so they cannot write for the time being. It's something too profound. However, it doesn't happen overnight. It requires step-by-step guidance and hard work. It's too arbitrary to deny it. The other teachers in the office all agreed after hearing He Tian's words. Teacher Wu added, then you read so many things every day, don't you feel tired? Isn't it nice to drink tea and read newspapers like us? Haha, I'm not tired. He Tian smiled, just think of it as a pastime. Drink tea and read the newspaper. Time will pass by the same way. I look at these and it's the same. The students brought the things over. I always have to take a closer look, after all, I am their teacher. Hey, I have to admire you, you are the most suitable to be a teacher, Teacher Wu said with a smile, compared with you, we seem to be very responsible. He Tian smiled and said, that's not the case. You have already completed your duties. This is just my hobby and has nothing to do with work. Yes, the school will not pay He Tian more just because He Tian has trained a few students who have published articles. He Tian just compares her feelings with others and does not want to waste or let down the students' efforts. He Tian spent a week reading all the manuscripts. Then I took the manuscript and went to class. After class, He Tian stood on the podium and said, "Students, your enthusiasm for writing makes the teacher very happy, but the teacher has 2 points. First, it cannot affect your grades, otherwise you will not be able to graduate by then. Don't come to me, I can help you with anything, but I will not cheat on your grades. Second, the reason why classmate Tang Pingan's martial arts novels were published is not only because he wrote well, but also because he was the author. Being good at writing this doesn't mean others are good at it." The students below lowered their heads when they heard He Tian's words. Many of them wrote after seeing Tang Pingan write, and most of them were not good at writing. I say this not to dampen your enthusiasm, but to tell you. Writing is a very careful thing. What do I want to write? What can I write? Will anyone read what I write? These books can convey a message to readers. What kind of content and feelings? He Tian didn't say much, but it gave the students below a deep understanding. Okay, I have 18 manuscripts here, and I have read them all. He Tian said, I would like to ask if you are willing to take them out for everyone to evaluate together, or should I talk to you privately? Many people were a little embarrassed when they heard that He Tian was going to be evaluated in public. Yuan Hua smiled and said, Teacher, we are all very embarrassed. Let's evaluate them one by one in private. Yes, teacher, others agreed. Thinking about it, some students' ideas are quite good, but it is indeed inappropriate to put them out for public evaluation. He Tian smiled and said, okay, this time I will evaluate it privately. Well, I will ask you to come to the office in the order of the dates given to me. After lunch, please come to the office. Thank you, teacher. He Yuanhua stood up and bowed to He Tian. At noon, Yuanhua came over. Yuanhua, there are still 40 minutes until your class. Let's use these 40 minutes to discuss your poetry. He Tian walked out with dozens of Yuanhua's manuscripts. Yuanhua was curious and asked, Teacher, it's so cold outside, why are we out here? There are other teachers taking a break in the office, and our talking will disturb their rest. He Tian said, come, let's go to the classroom. Although it's cold, it's better than outside. Okay, thank you, teacher. He Yuanhua was grateful. As Tang Pingan said, teacher, he always used his time outside of class to help them. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 794. 792. When others take a break, teacher, he will give them comments. Very hard. Yuanhua, please sit down. He Tian said, let's take a look at your poems. Well, thank you, teacher. He Yuanhua sat respectfully next to He Tian, very seriously. He Tian smiled and said, I don't have a high opinion of poetry, but I also know that literary works are derived from reality and are higher than reality. Some have gorgeous words and some are simple, such as those poets in ancient times. Poetry writer. Teacher, he is right. Yuanhua was already enlightened. Literary works come from reality and are higher than reality, which gave her a glimmer of understanding. Well, no matter whether the words are gorgeous or simple, they all express the poet's emotions through poetry. He Tian said, this is the true meaning of poetry. There are some emotions in you that I can't see. It seems to be a pile of words. Hearing what the teacher said, Yuanhua was stunned, his face turned slightly red, and he nodded and said, well, that's what teacher he said. He Tian listened and said with a smile, don't be discouraged. Poetry has been condensed since ancient times. It requires people's delicate emotions and a pair of eyes that are good at discovery. Well, teacher I've written it down, Yuan Hua said. I know where my shortcomings are. If you don't have inspiration, you can read more and think more, He Tian said. You can only succeed if you don't forget your original intention. He Tian simply pointed out the shortcomings of Yuan Hua's poetry and praised her at the same time. Yuan Hua was not discouraged. After thinking about it carefully, he felt that his ideas were more open than before. Teacher I understand something, Yuan Hua said happily, as if the veil that had been covering her eyes before had disappeared and became transparent. Well, you are very good, work hard, He Tian smiled and said. No matter what happens in the future, she has tried her best. For the next half-month, He Tian was talking to her classmates. Among them was a girl named Mo Ziyi who liked romance novels, especially Zhang Ailing's. He Tian suggested that she write some emotional novels. There was a boy in the class named Ma Zikan who was very familiar with historical figures, and He Tian suggested that he write history novels, etc. He Tian's efforts were appreciated by her classmates. While they study hard, they are also weaving their own hobbies and futures. Time passed quickly, and winter arrived in a blink of an eye. The cold wind howled and the snow fell heavily. He Tian almost didn't want to leave the house, but she still had to go to school. Fortunately, the exam is still half a month away. After today's class and good test papers, He Tian can stop going to school. When the time comes for the exam, just go directly to the school to invigilate the exam. He Tian was at home, and the students were also busy reviewing. No one wanted to fall behind in their studies. If the exam is not good, He Tian will not read their manuscripts in the future. Therefore, the students are more serious than usual. With good foundation and passing grades, it is not difficult. He Tian came back from school on foot. Grandma Wang quickly stepped forward to help He Tian clean the snow off her body and said, "Hey, it's so pitiful to have to go to work in such a snowy day. When is the exam?" "After the exam. You can take a vacation if you try. There are still half a month of exams, but during this time, I don't have to go to school," He Tian said. "Students review, and when the exam time comes, just go directly to invigilate the exam." "Well, not bad," Grandma Wang said. Come on, drink a bowl of ginger tea quickly, and you can also take advantage of this time to have a good rest." He Tian nodded and said, "Thank you, Grandma Wang, I think so too." Without having to go to school, He Tian had a lot of free time and was busy reading the account books. The end of the year is coming soon, business is the best of the year, and we are stocking up during this time. Just as He Tian had some time to relax, Huang Jingli came over, beaming with joy. "Tian, let me tell you some good news," Huang Jingli said with a smile. This news made her happier than making money at home. He Tian asked in surprise, "What good news? You have it again." "No," Huang Jingli smiled, "it was Lin Ziru who was chased and beaten all over the school by Qi Zhenzhen. Now almost everyone in their school knows that Lin Ziru seduced a married woman." "Haha," He Tian smiled slightly, "no wonder you are so happy." Huang Jingli smiled bitterly and said, "I have been tricked a lot by Lin Ziru. If I tell others, it may make people think that I am gloating about others' misfortunes and that the villain is getting his way. I can only tell you, who knows Lin Ziru, that that woman deserves it. What she did, she only cares about herself and doesn't care about other people's feelings. If God doesn't accept her, someone will do it." "That's right," He Tian smiled, "you have to close the door tightly to prevent her from coming to trouble you again." Huang Jingli smiled proudly and said, "Haha, probably not." "Why?" He Tian asked in confusion. "If a dog jumps over the wall in a hurry, Lin Ziru can do anything if he is pushed into a hurry." "Haha, Then Linziru went for an internship. Huang Jingli said, I guess she slept with a school leader, and she was actually assigned to a large enterprise affiliated to Nan City. It seems to be a joint venture. Okay, if Linziru starts working now, she will make money in the future, He Tian said, although this woman is vicious, as long as she lives well, she will be eager to enjoy herself instead of looking for revenge. He Tian knew Linziru very well. Just like in Kijia village, Linziru found a temporary job in the county town and went there happily. She no longer had to work and could dance and sing every day. Well, that's what you said, Huang Jingli said. In order to vent my anger even more, I wanted to write a letter of report so that Linziru would not have a job, but you are right, it is just a piece of dogskin plaster. She is doing well. He doesn't care about anything, he only cares about being well fed, clothed, and having fun, and he won't bother to trouble me. That's what I mean, I hope you understand. He Tian smiled and said, by the way, you go home and do business, and you do well. Well, I'm working hard on it, Huang Jingli smiled. On weekdays, I go to the temporary breeding farm my family rents in the suburbs and look at the account books. After I have some free time, I read novels, read books, and write something. He Tian was curious and asked, what are you writing? Haha, it's nothing. I just want to write a novel about going to the countryside. Huang Jingli smiled, I want to record what I heard and experienced in the form of a novel. Even if it is not published, when I get old, you can also take it out for fun. Well, okay, show it to me sometime, maybe I can give you some advice, He Tian said with a smile. She has read a lot now and has the ability to appreciate, but she can't write. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Sweetness of the Seventies. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 795. 793. After that, He Tian and Huang Jingli talked about a lot of business and life matters. Huang Jingli suddenly remembered a question and said, Tian, I have always had a question before, but I never asked you. Did you really see the dragon when you were in Kijia village? He Tian was stunned and asked, why did you suddenly think of asking this question? Huang Jingli frowned and said, when I have nothing to do now, I will think about things in Kijia village and find many unique things. For example, other villages are suffering from drought, but our village has water. Not only my own village has enough water, and can also help other villages, this is one. Second, the products in Daowen County are always higher than other villages. Third, there is the hot spring that comes and disappears inexplicably, etc. Haha, He Tian smiled, I once gave something to my father, and I was lucky enough to see the dragon. At that time, feudal superstition was broken, and even if everyone was in awe, it was in their hearts instead of talking about it everywhere, so when I see people, extremely difficult, people who haven't seen it are always dubious. Ah, Huang Jingli was stunned, oh my god, do you really want such a magical thing? Yes, I have seen it with my own eyes, He Tian said, there is no need to lie to you, just know it in your heart, and don't tell anyone else, so as not to be disrespectful to Shenlong. Although the Snake King has left the human world, the Snake King has indeed done a lot for Kijia village and helped many villagers. Yes, I've written it down, Huang Jingli said, feeling even more awed. She wanted to artistically process this paragraph in the novel. After having lunch here, Huang Jingli left with satisfaction. He Tian took advantage of the snow stopped in the afternoon and went to the shop and brought back some account books. She wanted to reconcile the accounts. Let's say that Huo Yingja is working overtime at this moment. In order to complete these things before the year, he has made great efforts. According to the normal pace, this project would take at least 10 months, but Huo Yingji compressed it to 5.5 months in order to go home for the new year. General Manager Sun felt a little distressed when he saw Huo Yingji working so hard. He came to Huo Yingji privately and said, "Don't push yourself so hard and worry about your own body." Huo Yingji smiled bitterly and said, "Hey, my wife and children are waiting for me to go home for the new year. I won't go, they will be very sad." "But this work cannot be rushed," Mr. Sun said, "some experiments must be verified over time. If you shorten the time, it may have a bad impact." Huo Yingji smiled bitterly and said, "I have tried my best and guaranteed the results. Mr. Sun, I also hope that the work you assign me next time can be completed in exactly 5 months. If it is still so tight, I will choose to resign." When he heard that Huo Yingji was going to resign, Mr. Sun was furious and said, "Huo Yingji, you have a bright future, you can't just resign." Hearing such words, Huo Yingji felt a little tired and said, "I am so young, what will happen to my family if I am exhausted? Especially this bullshit rule, you cannot leave during the project. Although this is for confidentiality, researchers are also human beings. There is life, and there are also emotions and desires. We have dedicated our youth to the Institute. Shouldn't the Institute be kinder to us? Look, how many people have died in our Institute in the past 6 months? A 50-year-old and a 48-year-old are just exhausted." Huo Yingji's words made Mr. Sun fall into deep thought. "Hey, isn't this a tight task?" Mr. Sun said. Recently, he felt that he was unable to do what he wanted and his health was getting worse day by day. "The tasks are tight, everyone works hard and overtime, day and night, which is consuming their lives," Huo Yingji said. "They are mature, steady and experienced researchers. A young researcher grows into an experienced researcher. It took more than 10 or 20 years for researchers to die from overwork. This is a loss to the country. However, if one researcher dies, the country still has thousands of researchers, but what about their homes? Where is the family? But they are the only one, and they are completely gone when they die." Chief Engineer Sun remained silent. Huo Yingji continued, "We have always emphasized sacrificing the small self to fulfill the greater self, but if the small self is gone, where is the big self? Then do you have any good suggestions?" Mr. Sun felt that Huo Yingji's words were very reasonable, especially since a researcher who passed away some time ago was only 48 years old. It was so regrettable that he died at such a young age. Now that holidays are implemented outside, we must implement it here too. We can't only have a few days off during the Chinese New Year, and work in the laboratory the rest of the time, Huo Yingji said. This will give everyone time to relax. There is relaxation and relaxation, which is very efficient and does not affect the work. General Manager Sun thought for a while and said, "Well, what you said makes sense. During this period, I will find a manager at the research institute and have a chat together. 1 day off every week is a bit too much for you." Bar. Huo Yingji felt a little embarrassed by Chief Engineer Sun and said, "I can take 2 days off in 2 weeks, so that I can go home, spend the weekend at home, and come back by car on Sunday afternoon." "Do you know how much manpower and material resources this will cost?" Mr. Sun wondered. When someone like Huo Yingji goes out, he needs someone to protect him, at least 2 people. There are many people like Huo Yingji. Huo Yingji smiled and said, "That is better than exhausting the researcher to death, and the loss is smaller. Now there are rest days outside. Although we sometimes work overtime for research, if there are no rest days, many people will be tired of work. At the same time, the purpose of doing research is not to spend time in the laboratory, but to study new directions, new projects, and find appropriate methods to combine work and rest with high efficiency." Mr. Sun nodded and said, "Well, I will consider it. Take care of yourself." "Well, thank you, Mr. Sunday." Huo Yingji thanked him. If it passes, he will be able to go home every 2 weeks next year. After Mr. Sun returned home, he kept thinking about this issue. When the meeting arrived at home, Mr. Sun couldn't help but tell Aunt Lee about this matter. Aunt Lee smiled and said softly, compared with the naked exploitation in capitalist countries, don't you think that the current indoctrination of people to sacrifice the individual to fulfill the big is a very deceptive exploitation, making people voluntarily accept exploitation? Aunt Lee also studied abroad and studied philosophy, and her vision was extraordinary. Mr. Sun was speechless for a long time due to Aunt Lee's words. The Sweetness of the Seventies. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 796. 794. Aunt Lee obviously didn't want to let Mr. Sun go just like this, so she continued. On weekdays, Aunt Lee is worried about Mr. Sun's health and complains a lot in her heart. For the prosperity of the country, someone needs to make sacrifices. However, it has been 30 years since the founding of the People's Republic of China. It is time to provide some benefits to the victims. When they die, mourn, send a few wreaths, shed a few tears, and what's the use, Aunt Lee said. Although Huo Yingzhi said these things for himself, he also spoke for other researchers. Okay, then I'll discuss it with a few people and carry out reforms, Mr. Sun said. Huo Yingzhi and his old wife were right. After a person dies, talking about other things is useless. Huo Yingzhi's efforts paid off, and Mr. Sun and several leaders were discussing it. Finally, there was an anonymous vote, and 96% of the votes were in favor of having a rest day. Only then did Mr. Sun realize that everyone was resisting endless overtime work. Anyway, the institute would make changes, so Huo Yingzhi stopped paying attention and focused on his work. Finally, on the 26th of the 12th lunar month, the work was completed, and after being handed over to Chief Engineer Sun, he immediately picked up his things and left. Seeing Huo Yingzhi's anxious look, Mr. Sun shook his head and laughed. He Tian finished the exam, corrected the test papers, and registered the scores. Then, he added the usual scores and calculated the total scores for the students in the class. Scholarship recipients should wait until school starts in the new year before giving praise. Although there were a few students with relatively poor grades in the class, they all passed 60 and would not have to take the makeup exam, which finally made He Tian relieved. She was afraid that her classmates would be busy writing and forget about serious study. Teacher He, it's holiday, do you have any plans? Teacher Wu asked. She had already thought about how to spend this year and wanted to hear what advice He Tian had. He Tian also packed her things and said with a smile, if nothing happens, I will probably go back to my old house to celebrate the new year. Going to Yanjing, Teacher Wu was curious, do you go every year? Yes, I go every year, He Tian said. What about you? We celebrated the new year at home. My husband's hometown is too far away and he doesn't want to go there, Teacher Wu said proudly. It's so far away and so cold, so I don't want to go to Shangaogu. He Tian was stunned for a moment and said nothing. When Teacher Chen heard what Teacher Wu said, he shook his head and said, Teacher Wu, you are still young and don't know that doing this is harmful. Your mother's family is local and you can see your parents all year round. But your husband is also your mother-in-law. It's rare for me to have a holiday during the Chinese New Year. If I don't go back, it would be unreasonable. But I'm not used to living there, Teacher Wu retorted. Anyway, if he goes home, let him go back by himself. I won't go back. Teacher Chen is older and said a few words to Teacher Wu and hoped she would be well. It's just that this girl doesn't have a good heart and doesn't understand the other person, so she will definitely have a bad life in the future. Haha, when you get married, accepting your husband means accepting his family. Teacher Chen shook his head. That's all, you young people have different ideas from us, but the basic filial piety must not be lost. After saying that, Teacher Chen took the briefcase and left, starting the winter vacation. After Teacher Chen left, Teacher Wu curled her lips and said, "Old feudal lord, mind your own business." He Tian raised her head, glanced at Teacher Wu, and said nothing. For such a person, He Tian didn't bother to talk to her. If you think you are superior, you can trample on the hearts of others. No matter whether it was towards Teacher Wu's husband or towards Teacher Chen, Teacher Wu did not do the right thing. You are still a highly intellectual person, forget it. Teacher He, why don't you speak? Teacher Wu saw that He Tian just glanced at her and said nothing. There is no common language, how to say it? If you are not filial, do you still want others to agree with you? He Tian also understands that not all mothers-in-law are as sensible as Zhang Lifang, but most of them are good, especially when couples get married. Men should respect their father-in-law and mother-in-law, and women should respect their mother-in-law and father-in-law. It's mutual. It can't be that your own parents are biological, but the husband's parents are from the cesspool. Father-in-law and mother-in-law may have some words and ideas that are different from those of young people, but they don't have to listen to them, don't contradict them, and give them a minimum of respect. Haha, what did you say? He Tian pretended not to hear the conversation between Teacher Wu and Teacher Chen, because she just didn't want to continue this topic with her. Teacher Wu was stunned. He Tian clearly knew what she said just now, so she pretended not to know, which made her feel a little depressed. But He Tian didn't hear clearly, so she couldn't explain it again. It's nothing. I'm leaving first. Happy Spring Festival to everyone. Teacher Wu held her bag and walked hard, her leather shoes stepping on the ground, leaving a series of sounds. Haha, Teacher He, Teacher Wu is angry, a male teacher said softly. Yes, Teacher He Mi Wei, the young female teacher opposite He Tian, echoed softly, you clearly heard her clearly, why didn't you answer her words? He Tian smiled and said, I don't know how to answer it. Haha, that's right, Mi Wei said with a smile, fortunately you didn't ask me. If you asked me, I wouldn't know how to answer it. Hey, if my wife is like this, she probably hasn't been in trouble these days. Wang Bin shook his head and laughed. After comparing it, I found that my wife is really nice. Not only does she accompany me back during the winter vacation, but she also goes there during the summer vacation, and she often helps the family with cooking. Rice. On the contrary, it was my mother who said something bad about my wife in front of me. Haha, just know that your wife is good. Teacher, he said with a smile, the reason why women do this is actually because they love their husbands, so they respect their husband's parents. Mi Wei echoed, Wang Bin, my sister-in-law is a good woman. Although daughters-in-law should respect their mothers-in-law, some mothers-in-law, namely old godly mothers, make things difficult for their daughters-in-law and feel that nothing they do is right. Haha, is your mother-in-law making things difficult for you? Wang Bin asked, you've only been married for 2 months. Hey, the old godly woman will not get better just because she was married for a short period of time. Mi Wei smiled bitterly, I am going to go back to my parents' home to borrow some money and buy a small house. We will move out and not be crowded with my father-in-law, mother-in-law, and the boss's family. We are together. Let's take making breakfast as an example. My mother-in-law is retired, but she is in good health. She doesn't have to make breakfast. Isn't it okay for me and my sister-in-law to take turns? Well. But she refused. She insisted on getting our sisters-in-law up to make breakfast together. It was so cold that we couldn't even sleep for a while. Not only that, but she also provoked the relationship between me and my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law is a cheerful person and she told me directly, and then I realized that my mother-in-law was causing trouble. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 797. 795. Mi Wei's words stunned He Tian and Wang Bin. Ah, why is your mother-in-law trying to stir up trouble like this? Wang Bin is a man and doesn't understand these things. Mi Wei sneered and said, when the snipe and the clam fight, the fisherman benefits. I hope both of us will flatter her. Now we don't talk to my mother-in-law. I have to buy a house quickly, otherwise my sister-in-law will buy it and move out first, and I will always face the old woman in the future. Haha, then you have to move faster, Wang Bin said. He Tian smiled and didn't say anything. Mi Wei looked at He Tian and asked, how is your mother-in-law? You look so happy all the time, as if you have no worries at all. Worries? None at all? This is impossible. But those things are nothing in He Tian's eyes. Haha, my mother-in-law is very nice, He Tian said, our two families are neighbors, and my mother-in-law has watched me grow up. We know each other very well, and there are no conflicts between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. Mi Wei heard this and said enviously, Teacher He, you are so happy. Haha, life is lived out. If you work hard, you will always be able to live your life well. He Tian said that she also has a lot of troubles, but no matter how annoying the things are, you can't get angry with others. Especially the elders. That's right, Mi Wei said, Teacher He, you have the best temper here. Haha, you're too kind, you haven't seen me when I'm in a bad temper. He Tian laughed, when I get angry, I'm afraid of myself. Haha, Teacher He, you're so funny, Wang Bin said, but Teacher He is right, life is made by oneself. I will also pay more attention to the family in the future, and I won't let my wife be bullied. Mi Wei was envious and smiled bitterly, hey, I'll go back and continue to be a bullied little wife. Okay, you're so smart that you won't be bullied, He Tian said, some things can be solved satisfactorily if you think more open-mindedly or change a method. It doesn't need to be known to everyone, after all, we are a family. I hope so, Mi Wei said. He Tian also packed up her things and locked the cabinet, saying, okay, I'm going to take a holiday too. Happy Spring Festival, see you next year. When He Tian left, Wang Bin turned to Mi Wei and said, you are still young. If you have something to do in the future, talk to Teacher He more often, and don't get along with that Teacher Wu. I can see that she is not a person of the same level, Mi Wei said. Teacher He has a calm temperament, not tepid, but always able to do things well and plan her life well. Yes, among the teachers in our department this year, Teacher He is particularly profound and has potential, Wang Bin said. Hey, such a good woman would have been married a long time ago. If it was a few years earlier, he would have pursued her no matter what. Yeah, thank you brother Wang for reminding me, Mi Wei thanked him. Wang Bin is in his 30s and has worked in the school for several years. Mi Wei was assigned here this year, and he was from another school, so he didn't know much about Nanji University. Teacher Chen arranged for Wang Bin to take Mi Wei to get familiar with the place, so that Mi Wei could quickly get familiar with the place and start working in the shortest time. Therefore, Mi Wei has always been grateful and respectful to Wang Bin. Wang Bin was the last to leave, locked the door and left the school. It's vacation. He Tian went on vacation very early and prepared some New Year's goods at home, but she didn't dare to prepare too much because she was going to Yanjing for the new year. The loan for the house in Yanjing has been fully repaid. Originally, He Tian wanted to go there in person, but accountant Liang said that as an accountant, she could go there for her and pay off the loan. It's just that she didn't think about living there for the time being, so the yard was not decorated, and only someone was hired to clean it. He Tian counted the days with her fingers. It was already the 22nd day of the 12th lunar month, and Huo Yingzhe hadn't come back yet. He Tian wanted Huo Yingzhe to come back, but she was worried that Huo Yingzhe would not pay attention to rest in order to rush to work. Very contradictory. One day, she received a letter, and learned from the letter that Huo Yingzhe would definitely go home before the new year. He Tian smiled and put the letter away. She managed the house and the shop as well as possible, and thought about giving everyone a bigger year-end bonus this year. After all, she made a lot of money this year. She couldn't just make money by herself and let others watch. He Tian had hinted before and found that they all wanted to buy clothes after getting the money. Thinking of this, He Tian measured their sizes, bought the best woolen material, found a master craftsman to make clothes according to one of her woolen coats. During the Chinese New Year, you have to wear bright red. Although it is only one color, the style is definitely good. The man's black cashmere woolen coat is very high and warm. After get off work on the 24th day of the 12th lunar month, the tailor shop sent someone to deliver the clothes in person. There was plastic wrapped outside and a frame inside to support it, which was very stylish. This year, in addition to the bonus, there is also a set of clothes for the new year. They are all woolen coats. The female employees are bright red, and the male employees are black. He Tian said, "Come here to get the clothes." Chin Sui loves to be coquettish. When she heard that there were nice clothes, she hurried over and said, "Leader, you are so nice. I was worried that I couldn't buy clothes." "Haha, okay, you are tall, this one is yours." He Tian said, "If you are not satisfied, you can go to Ruifeng tailor shop to modify it yourself." "Yeah, thank you, leader. The color is really nice. The bright red color is most suitable for the dusty winter. Our Sanfan bridge is booming." Chin Sui received the clothes and couldn't wait to go home before going to the dressing room at the back to change into them. Others saw it and took some clothes to change. The male employee was more reserved. After receiving it, he was ready to go home and try again. The craftsmanship of Rui Hefen is really good. As long as the size is correct, the clothes can be worn. The breasts are enlarged and the waist is slim, which is particularly beautiful. "Boss, this dress is really nice," Chin Sui said with a smile, "and it's also warm. I like it so much. Everyone, do your best. If you perform well, I will buy you beautiful summer skirts from Xiangjiang next summer." He Tian said with a smile, "as long as everyone likes it." "Thank you, leader." Everyone thanked them one after another. Accountant Liang and Sun Xiao's wives are older, so their coats are purple and the styles are specially made for them according to their body shapes. Everyone is happy and everyone starts looking forward to the bonus at the end of the year. He Tian talked to Accountant Liang and stopped coming to the shop after the year-end bonus was paid. "Hey, I don't know when Yingzhe will be back," Zhang Lifang said softly. She had received a letter before and learned that her son would be back before the Chinese New Year, but she did not specify a specific day. "Mom, don't worry, it'll be nice to come back before the end of the year anyway," He Tian said. She missed Huo Yingzhe even more. It's just that she can't express herself in front of her parents-in-law, so she has to comfort her mother-in-law. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Sweetness of the Seventies. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 798. 796. Zhang Lifang nodded and said, "Well, you're right, I'm about to take a vacation. Then we'll tidy up the house together and prepare for the new year." "No, Mom, I'm at home." He Tian smiled, "I'm already on vacation. Grandma Wang and I can do the things at home. When winter comes, you will be very busy, but you can't do it because of work. If you tire yourself out, you should take a rest." "Yes, I know," Zhang Lifang said. Her husband has been very busy recently. After all, Tian has done so many things by herself and still has some free time. She has to admire her daughter-in-law for being good at making arrangements. Just as he was talking, 3 more people appeared at the door. "Huo Yingzhe is back." "Mom, Tian, Grandma Wang, I'm back," Huo Yingzhe said softly, carrying it as a salute. He Tian raised her head and looked at Huo Yingzhe. Although Huo Yingzhe had been carefully groomed, He Tian could tell from Huo Yingzhe's thin face that he must be working hard again. But she couldn't hate Huo Yingzhi like this. The reason why he did this was to come back to see her and his family. Yingzhi, you kid, why have you lost so much weight? Zhang Lifang felt distressed. This kid is really annoying. She told him to take care of himself, but he just didn't obey. It's so heartbreaking. Mom, I'm fine, Huo Yingzhi said with a smile. It's just that the food there is not delicious, and I am picky, so I lost some weight. It's the Chinese New Year, and you and Tian Tian are making delicious food. Eat some and you'll gain weight. Yes, yes, then I'll go cook now, Zhang Lifang said hurriedly. You go inside and have a rest. Tian Tian and Huo Yingzhi looked at each other and said nothing. Brother Zhang, Yunfan, I have already packed the room for you. You put your things away first. Tian Tian chuckled and took them to the bedroom. In front of others, Tian Tian resisted the urge to throw herself into her husband's arms. In the evening, Tian Tian prepared a sumptuous dinner. Zhang Lifang and Grandma Wan kept letting Huo Yingzhi eat, hoping that Huo Yingzhi could make up for it. Huo Yingzhi did not refuse the kindness of his elders and ate a lot. When the two children saw that their father was eating deliciously, they also ate voraciously, with several grains of rice stained on their faces. In the evening, the two hugged each other, and after the clouds and rain passed, they talked about their own affairs. Most of the time, Tian Tian was talking about the school student shop. Huo Yingzhi was listening carefully and gently playing with Tianation's long hair. I'm so lucky to be your student, Huo Yingzhi said softly. You are good at discovering students' strengths and encouraging them, and you also provide money and effort to help them. If they are talented and work hard, they will definitely succeed. I just feel that I have the ability, so I help them. After all, they are still young, have a long road ahead, and do not have enough experience, but they are all very good people. Proper guidance can help them get twice the result with half the effort. Tian Tian, she explained that if they really succeeded in the future, Tian Tian would not refuse her thanks to her kindness. Doing good deeds without leaving a name is Lei Feng. Tian Tian is a common person and cannot do that. Although taking care of students is what teachers should do, Tian Tian spent more time, energy, and material resources than other teachers, so there is nothing wrong with wanting to be recognized by students. Doing twice the result with half the effort can help them avoid detours, Huo Yingzhi said. By the way, I have suggested to Mr. Sun that we should give researchers a rest day. Maybe next year I can go home every 2 weeks. Really? Tian Tian was pleasantly surprised. I can't wait. It should be possible. Those engaged in scientific research will shorten their lives if they don't take a good rest, which will be a loss for the country. The higher authorities have begun to pay attention to this issue, Huo Yingzhi said. Only by combining work and rest with relaxation can we be efficient. Yes, that's right, Tian Tian nodded. Fortunately, our children have good memories. I haven't seen you for more than half a year, but I can still remember you. Haha, that's my son. He's naturally smart, Huo Yingzhi said, but the mother teaches the child better. Tian Tian hugged Huo Yingzhi gently and said, although I'm used to you not being around, it would be nice if I could go home more often in the future. My child misses you. As far as the child is concerned, doesn't the mother of the child not want the father of the child? Huo Yingzhi gently bit Tianation's ear. Tian Tian was extremely tired, closed her eyes, and said quickly, the mother misses the father more. That's pretty much it. Huo Yingzhi kissed Tianation's forehead and gently hugged Tian Tian to sleep. During the Chinese New Year, the family stayed in Yanjing until the 6th day of the New Year, and then returned to Nanxi. Although there are some small things, it is still harmonious. Of course, Song Chunli also asked Tian Tian when he would open the store. Tian Tian also told her directly that someone would come to Yanjing to open a store this year and asked her to prepare the money to invest. Song Chunli was very happy and went to prepare money. She also wanted to get some money from her mother-in-law and try to earn more shares. At the same time, Tian Tian also told Zhao Huan, asking her to prepare some money and give Zhao Huan a share when the time comes. After returning, their family vacation begins. Although Zhang Lifang and Huo Jekan have to go to work during the day, Huo Yingzhe delivers meals to his mother at noon every day. When he returns home at night, the whole family gathers together and is lively. Finally, having some alone time, Zhang Lifang found He Tian and asked, "Tian, you are going to give Dafang some of the business in Yanjing. How did you arrange it? Can you tell me?" Even if her mother-in-law didn't ask, He Tian would still find an opportunity to talk to her. "I have thought about it. I will give 10% to my uncle and aunt, and 10% to my eldest brother and sister-in-law," He Tian replied. "Is this okay?" Zhang Lifang thought for a while and said, "Okay, that's enough. I'm afraid that if you give too much, your aunt's appetite will be enlarged. Then she will mix in everything." He Tian thought for a while and asked, "Mom, what if they want more shares?" "It's okay. I'll talk to my mother-in-law then," Zhang Lifang said. "By the way, those shops would rather be run by decent people than let your aunt get involved. Otherwise, everything will go into her pocket when the time comes." "Well, it's like this, Brother Dajan, Xiao Yan is going to settle in Yanjing. Then I will leave Yanjing's affairs to Brother Dajan and let him run it. I can rest assured," He Tian explained, "and Brother Dajan has managed it before. Knowing this, he will take care of it." "That's good," Zhang Lifang said. "When the time comes to sign the contract, you must write down these terms clearly. Be a villain before being a gentleman. Write down the terms clearly to avoid conflicts over money in the future." "Yes, I've written it down," He Tian said. "Since her mother-in-law is here anyway, it's hard for her to tell as a junior, so let her mother-in-law come forward." The Sweetness of the Seventies. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 799. 797. After the Lantern Festival, Huo Yingzhe returned to his work. He Tian also started school. It started in 1981. Huo Yingzhe's previous request was answered. After discussing with several leaders, General Manager Sun decided to implement a standard rest system to ensure the rest time and health of researchers. Huo Yingzhe is lucky and has special treatment. You can take 2 days off a week. After get off work on Friday, you go to the train station. It takes more than 3 hours to get home, around 8 or 9 o'clock. Then you take the bus on Sunday afternoon and return to your work at 6 o'clock in the evening. Huo Yingzhe went home for the weekend for the first time, but he didn't tell He Tian in advance because he wanted to give her a surprise. It was evening, Grandma Wang had gone to bed, and He Tian was reading a book. She got up and opened the door. "Yingzhe, why are you back?" He Tian was surprised and had long forgotten what Huo Yingzhe said before. "I have 2 days off on Saturday and Sunday," Huo Yingzhe replied, "so you can go home." He Tian was pleasantly surprised and said, "That's great. Brother Zhang, Yunfan, please come in quickly." Over there, Zhang Lifang and Grandma Wang heard that Huo Yingzhe was back and came over one after another. "I am very happy to hear that my son can come back on weekends from now on. I had dry noodles at home, as well as beef and vegetables. I made beef noodles directly. I made a whole pot of them and 3 people ate them all." Grandma Wang and Zhang Lifang cleaned up the room for Zhang Aijun and Yunfan while He Tian was cooking, and then went back to rest. He Tian hugged Huo Yingzhe happily and said, "Brother Yingzhe, it's great to see you every week." 5 days, much less time than 5 months, passed by in the blink of an eye. "Yes," Huo Yingzhe said, Tian, "it's a bit unrealistic, but it's okay to come back once a week. Anyway, I will never work overtime." "This is already good," He Tian smiled. "It's very late, go to bed early, I have to go to school tomorrow." The next morning, Huo Yingzhe got up early, cooked rice porridge, and went out to buy breakfast. It was not until 7 o'clock that he woke up. He Tian Tian. After breakfast, Huo Yingzhe pushed out his bicycle and sent He Tian Tian to school. He Tian Tian sat on the back seat of Huo Yingzhe's bicycle, holding his waist. The early spring breeze blew He Tian's long hair, and there was He Tian Tian and Huo Yingzhe's laughter in it. Huo Yingzhe sent He Tian Tian to the office and said, "I will bring you food at noon." "Okay, no matter if it tastes good or not, He Tian Tian will never refuse Huo Yingzhe's love." After He Tian Tian went upstairs, Teacher Wu said enviously, "Teacher He, is that your husband?" "Yeah," He Tian Tian nodded. When they were in school, they went to and from school with Huo Yingzhe, and their classmates all knew it. However, since Huo Yingzhe went to work, the two of them had not been to school together. Mi Wei said in surprise, "Teacher He, your husband is so handsome and loves you so much. I'm so happy." "Okay, your husband is pretty good too. Didn't he come to pick you up yesterday?" He Tian Tian smiled and squeezed Mi Wei. Teacher Chen smiled, shook his head and said, "Mi Wei, your attitude is not good. You can't eat from the bowl and look at the pot. Be content with what you have. Your partner will come to take you to work and pick him up from get off work, but my husband will not come." Teacher Wu said with a pout, complaining that his partner was not considerate and his marriage was unhappy. Everyone knows that Teacher Wu made a big fuss because she didn't go back to her hometown with her husband to celebrate the new year, so it's hard for them to talk to her when such a thing happens. He Tian Tian tidied up and went to class, ignoring He Tian Tian. Huo Yingzhe went home and passed by the vegetable market. He went to the vegetable market and bought a lot of vegetables, ready to show off his skills at noon. Yunfen was responsible for protecting Huo Yingzhe. He followed behind and asked, "Brother Huo, can you cook?" "You can cook a little," Huo Yingzhe replied. "By the way, can you cook?" "I don't know how, but Brother John cooks delicious food," Yunfen said. "I had dinner at his house before. My sister-in-law was busy at work, so he bought the food and cooked it. It tasted particularly good." "Okay, just the three of us will prepare a table full of food at noon today," Huo Yingzhe said. From now on, when he is home, Tian Tian won't let Tian Tian cook and will let her rest for a while. Zhang Aijun was also very happy when he heard that the three of them were cooking today. He felt embarrassed having nothing to do all day. "Yunfen, you stand guard while Comrade Huo and I cook together," Zhang Aijun said with a smile. "What I am best at is boiled chicken, squirrel fish, boiled dried shreds over high heat, etc." "Awesome, Brother Zhang," Huo Yingzhe smiled. "Come on, let's start doing it now, and I will learn from you." Zhang Aijun didn't hide his secrets and said, "Then you will take a closer look later." Huo Ruiman and Huo Ruwa gathered around their father, helping to choose vegetables, but mostly causing trouble. However, Huo Yingzhe does not scold the children. Instead, he entertains the children while working and explains various vegetables to them. At noon, under the supervision of Zhang Aijun and Huo Yingzhe, we cooked a table of dishes, including boiled chicken, Westlake vinegar fish, braised beef, garlic scrambled eggs, hot and sour cabbage, and a portion of stir-fried shredded potatoes. Huo Yingzhe packed a portion, ate some himself, and was about to deliver food to He Tian Tian. Grandma Wang smiled and said, "I will only give it to your wife, not your mother. Don't worry about being scolded for marrying a daughter-in-law and forgetting her mother." Huo Yingzhe patted his head, suddenly realized, and said, "Oh, I almost made a mistake. I have to give it to my mother. Fortunately, I was on my way." He took out another thermos box and put one in it for his mother. Huo Yingzhe rode his bicycle and went to the hospital first to deliver meals to his mother. "Oh, why don't you send it to Tian Tian?" Zhang Lifang was very happy to see her son coming. Huo Yingzhe smiled and said, "Send it to mom first, then to Tian Tian." He was very sweet, which made Zhang Lifang very happy. "Then put it down quickly, don't waste time, send it to Tian Tian, otherwise it will get cold and uncomfortable to eat, Zhang Lifang urged, unlike before when she would wait for her to finish eating and let her son take the lunch box back. Then I won't eat with my mother, Huo Yingji smiled. Fortunately, Grandma Wang reminded him, otherwise it would create family conflicts. Huo Yingji remembered a sentence in his mind, that the relationship between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law is often caused by the son's failure to play a good role, or even playing a counter-effect in the middle. Fortunately, he was smart and did not make such a mistake. Very smart, give yourself a thumbs up. Huo Yingji rode his bicycle to school again. Along the way, he rode the 38-bar bicycle vigorously. When he arrived at school, the get out of class was just over. He Tian waited for Huo Yingji in the office and was not in a hurry to go to the cafeteria. After Huo Yingji arrived, the two went to the cafeteria together. The office was warm, and the windows were not open. It was a closed space. If you eat in it, the smell is not good. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Xing Cao. Chapter 800. 798. Mi Wei saw He Tian coming to the cafeteria and waved. He Tian looked at Mi Wei and saw that there was still room beside Teacher Wu, so she took Huo Yingji over. Huo Yingji took out 2 large thermal boxes from his big bag. Tian, you eat some food and drink some soup first, and I'll buy you some rice. Huo Yingji got up and went to the window selling rice. After a while, Huo Yingji brought a large bowl of rice. It's not enough, I'll buy more, Huo Yingji said, worried that He Tian would be embarrassed to eat too much in front of her colleagues. He Tian smiled and said, this big bowl is enough. Mi Wei secretly looked at Huo Yingji and said, Teacher you don't want to introduce him to us either. He Tian swallowed the rice in her mouth and introduced, Huo Yingji, my husband, these are my colleagues Mi Wei and Wu Maimei. Hello. Huo Yingji was the first to say hello, please take good care of my Tian in the future. Oops, I spread a bag of dog food naked. Mi Wei smiled and said, Teacher, he has a good temper. She takes care of us. Yes, Teacher Wu said softly, why is He Tian so lucky? She is good looking, has a good family background, and has a good husband. She is regarded as a treasure. I don't know if I don't know, it really makes people envious, jealous, and hateful. Huo Yingji, where do you work? Mi Wei asked. According to the degree of love between He Tian and her husband, it is unlikely that everyone met Huo Yingji for the first time after working for a year. Huo Yingji smiled and replied, a unit under the Science and Technology Commission. So awesome, Mi Wei said, are you on vacation now? Yes, Huo Yingji nodded and answered while serving He Tian some vegetables. The sweetness made Mi Wei and Teacher Wu feel that it was time to change their husbands at home. After dinner, Huo Yingji packed up his things and took a walk on campus with He Tian. Huo Yingji didn't go home until He Tian was about to go to work, and then picked him up after He Tian got off work. When we returned to the office, several people in the office were discussing He Tian and Huo Yingji. Oh no, you have to die when comparing yourself to others, and you have to throw away goods when comparing goods, Teacher Wu said with emotion. Teacher does your husband have an older brother and younger brother? Wang Ben smiled and said, oh, do you regret marrying too early? Hey, yes, it's useless to regret it, Wu Maimei said, I have a younger sister, Wu Mingming, who will graduate from college next year and is not too young anymore. I want to introduce a partner to my younger sister. Sorry, my partner is an only child, He Tian smiled. They were discussing in the office. If she didn't say a few words, she would be considered unsociable. Then does your partner have a cousin or a clan brother? Teacher Wu asked unwillingly. The conditions of the Huo family are so good. It would be even better if they could catch up. He Tian never mentioned her family background in school. The reason why she was considered to have a good family background was because of her speech, behavior, clothing, etc. If Wu Maimei knew that Huo Yingji's father was Mayor Huo, she would probably be embarrassed to insist on talking about her sister to the Huo family. Although the new society has a new atmosphere, they are well matched, and Chi Daifi's ideas are deeply rooted. My uncle has a cousin in his family, but he already has 2 sons, he Tian said. As for the brothers, they are all married. My father-in-law is the youngest of his generation, and my partner is the younger one. The youngest in my generation. Hey, that's a pity, Teacher Wu sighed. She didn't listen to her mother and insisted on marrying her current husband. Her life was tight. Now she often has conflicts and it's too late to regret. Nowadays, we must not let anyone find a girl from outside the country as our sister partner. Mi Wei rolled her eyes where Teacher Wu couldn't see her, and thought to herself, with her being like this, my sister is probably not an easy person to get along with. When he Tian saw Mi Wei's eyes rolled, he just smiled and said nothing. Teacher how many years have you been married and your relationship is so good? Mi Wei asked, very curious about this. Although she had only been married for less than half a year, she felt that he Tian and his wife were more affectionate. We have been married for 5 years. We got married in February 1976, he Tian replied. You didn't ask, and I didn't care. I didn't expect 5 years to pass in the blink of an eye. 5 years, Teacher Wu screamed, it's been 5 years. You are considered an old couple. Why are you still so affectionate? Seeing what Teacher Wu said, and Teacher Chen and Teacher Wang Bin were there, he Tian blushed a little and said shyly, we are in love, and we usually care and support each other. That's it? Okay, I'm going to class, no I told you. He Tian ran away. Although she is a married woman, it is really embarrassing to be asked this question in front of the opposite sex. Haha, teacher, he is shy. Mi Wei smiled and said to He Tianation's back, Teacher Wu, please stop talking. Seeing that Teacher Wu was envious and disappointed, Teacher Chen persuaded him. When Teacher He was in college, the couple were like conjoined twins. Huo Yingji came to pick up Teacher He every day when he went to and from school. The way of husband and wife, Xiaomi, Xiao Wu, you should learn from He Tian in private. This teacher is very good at work and in life. Yes, I'll ask in private, Mi Wei said. Actually, between husband and wife, we don't want to be rich and powerful, but it is my dream to be as happy as Teacher He. Teacher Wu was shocked. She had been married for less than 2 years, and now she had reached the point where she and her husband stopped talking to each other after returning home. She was reluctant to divorce her because she still liked her husband very much. If you don't get divorced, you will be so cold and unhappy every day. He Tian has been married for 5 years and has 2 children, but when she talks about her husband, she still blushes and her eyes water, making her a happy little woman. She is also a woman. Why can He Tian do it but she can't? After He Tian finished class, Teacher Chen and Wang Bin went to class. Only Teacher Wu and Mi Wei were in the office. Mi Wei couldn't help but ask, Teacher He, can you tell me how to cultivate the relationship between husband and wife? Although Teacher Wu didn't ask, he looked at He Tian expectantly. He Tian was a little embarrassed to be stared at by the 2 people, but there were no male colleagues around, so she whispered, actually, it's nothing. First of all, it is love, and being able to get married proves that there is a foundation of emotion. Secondly, mutual respect, including his origin, occupation, or some shortcomings. Finally, if it is not a matter of principle, please do not quarrel, quarreling will hurt your feelings. Mi Wei wrote it down carefully, and then asked, what is a principled issue? By the way, Teacher He, since you said it, you have already told us. Let's improve our relationship as husband and wife when we go back, Teacher Wu said hurriedly. She is He Tianation's negative teaching material. Wu Maimei vaguely felt that her marriage could not survive if she did not make some changes, So she was more eager than Mi Wei to know how to improve the relationship between husband and wife. He Tian smiled and said, the issue of principle is actually very simple. First, we must be loyal to each other, and there must be no cheating. Second, there must be no domestic violence or verbal abuse. Third, we must not be unfilial to both parents. As long as we don't do this, if it's a mistake, there's no need to make a fuss and hurt feelings. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 801. 799. Mi Wei was convinced and decided to change his thoughts and practices after returning, so that he could take more initiative. Teacher, he is right, Mi Wei said, I know what to do. Teacher Wu looked embarrassed and felt a little bad, and said, listening to what you said, the deterioration of our relationship as husband and wife should be mostly due to me. It should be because I didn't do a good job. Mi Wei smiled and said, you can still realize that it is your fault, and you should be able to make up for it. In fact, I have met your husband once before. He is a nice person. If nothing else, you complained to us on the first day of school, saying that your husband went back to his hometown to celebrate the new year and left you alone in Nanjing. But why don't you think about it and keep saying that your husband has no conscience? He is in his hometown and we only see him twice a year during the summer vacation. If you don't go back with your husband, he will naturally be angry. Besides, you only have to worry if your husband doesn't care about me. How can a person be a good person if he doesn't even know how to be filial to his own mother? Teacher Wu was dumbfounded and speechless by Mi Wei's words. She also felt her face heat up and felt a little ashamed. Mi Wei is quick talking, and although there are some minor conflicts between colleagues, he will not really do anything bad to others. He Tian won't say much more. Everyone knows the truth. How to do it is Teacher Wu's own business. Hey, yes, Teacher Wu said, if you can be cruel to your own mother, who else can't be cruel to you? After get off work today, I will buy some pieces of fabric and send them back to my parents-in-law for them to make a few pieces of clothing to make up for my previous mistakes. By the way, if you are good to his parents, your husband will naturally appreciate your kindness, Mi Wei said. If you don't respect his parents, he will naturally feel sad. He feels guilty and has resentment towards you, no matter how nice he is. My feelings can't stand this kind of consumption. Yeah, thank you. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't know where I went wrong, Teacher Wu said sheepishly. It was He Tian's happiness that made her reflect on her marriage. You're welcome. If you work hard on yourself and get married, you can live a happy life, He Tian said. Hearing the bicycle bell ringing below, it must be Huo Yingji coming over. Okay, I'll get off work first. Tomorrow see. He Tian first opened the window and waved below to show that she heard, then closed the window and started packing her things, took the small bag, and left happily. Under everyone's envious gaze, He Tian got on the back seat of Huo Yingji's bicycle and went home together. Mi Wei smiled and said, I have to work hard too. Being happy is a lifetime, and being noisy all day is also a lifetime. Why can't I live a better life? I had a deep talk with He Tian today and I learned a lot. I will work hard in the future. I'll try my best, too. Teacher Wu smiled bitterly. He was frozen 3 feet in a day, and he didn't know if it could be improved. It was still early, so He Tian went to the shop and picked up some snacks and braised pork. She also went to the medicine shop and bought several medicinal materials that could be used for cooking, such as wolfberry and angelica. Want to make soup? Huo Yingji asked. These are all the ingredients for making soup. Yes, it's a bit dry. It would be better to drink more soup. He Tian smiled. May I ask Master Yingji, if you can make soup? Yes, I must, Huo Yingji said proudly. He couldn't, but there was Zhang Aijun beside him. The two bought some things for making soup tomorrow. By the way, Jinmin and I agreed before to invite their brother and sister to our house for dinner, he Tian said, let them drink some soup by the way. Huo Yingji raised his eyebrows and said, Qi Zhengan is free. She should be free, he Tian said, but Jinmin will definitely come over. She is my only friend in Nanji. On weekends, she usually comes to play with me. Oh, Huo Yingji responded, by the way, how is the construction of their factory going? When will they be able to build cars? I have long wanted to buy a car and drive it. No need to buy it, Jinmin said that he will give us the best car when the time comes, he Tian said, just wait. That's great, Huo Yingji said. He learned from Xiao Suangi that Qi Zhengan was already in a relationship with a female college student and should not harass he Tian. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, he Tian said, but I can't drive, I have to learn. I can, I'll teach you, Huo Yingji said, if you can ride a bicycle, it will be easier to learn. Really, he Tian didn't believe it. The bicycle was so simple. Of course it's true. Driving a car is easier than driving a bicycle, Huo Yingji said, you will know when the time comes. The couple returned the home. Zhang Aijun is at home and has already prepared the meal. Oops, this bodyguard is almost turning into a nanny. He Tian ate the food cooked by Zhang Aijun and praised, Brother Zhang, your craftsmanship is so good. My sister-in-law and nephew are very happy. My partner is usually busy at work, and his craftsmanship is not very good, so whenever I have free time, I will cook them some delicious food. Zhang Aijun smiled. Li Yunzong also talked about me before, saying that I was no longer a soldier and could go open a restaurant. Well, you may not be able to do it in a large hotel, but you can definitely handle a medium-sized restaurant, Huo Yingji said. By the way, I see that you cook, and you seem to be able to cook some dishes from all over the world. Who did you learn this from? Haha, Zhang Aijun smiled, my colleagues in the unit come from all over the world, and they basically know how to cook a few hometown dishes. When they cook, I watch from the side. After I go home and cook them once or twice, they get good at it, so I'll cook a lot more. He Tian gave a thumbs up and said, I admire you, this is your talent. Yunfan also agreed, our captain has the best cooking skills. Only when you love home and food can you cook well, he Tian said. This was he Tian's observation. Some men may not make much money, or they may not be handsome enough, but they have a sense of responsibility. They love their spouses, children, and elders. They are willing to wash their hands and make soup, cook delicious meals for their families, so that their wives will be less burdened, and their wives will be less burdened. Children, elders eat better. Such a man is also a good man. With the addition of Zhang Aijun, the Huo family has dishes from all over the world on their dining table. The next day, the Huo family entertained Qi Zhengan and Qi Zhenmin with gifts. He Tian came out to greet them. Huo Yingji had never liked Qi Zhengan, and he had nothing to say to Qi Zhenmin, so he and Zhang Aijun cooked in the kitchen while he Tian greeted them. Today I had angelica, tea tree mushroom and old hen soup, which was simmered for several hours. Zhang Aijun saw fresh lamb chops and made a cumin lamb chop. There is a big table full of food, and the aroma is fragrant. From April 28 to May 7, monthly tickets are doubled. During this period, there will be big red envelopes. If you have monthly tickets, you can grab the red envelopes. Thank you everyone for your tips and subscriptions. Moi. The Sweetness of the 70s. Author, Chi Sing Cao. Chapter 802. 800. Qi Zhenmin smelled the fragrance and looked towards the kitchen from time to time. Sister Tian, has your family hired a chef? Qi Zhenmin asked. Sister Tian has always cooked at home, without hiring a nanny or a cook. She always thought that when it could be solved by spending some money, why bother herself? No, my husband's colleague He Tian explained, he can cook dishes from all over the country. You are in for a treat today. Qi Zhengan smiled and said, I can try it later. By the way, Yingzhe asked me yesterday, when will your company's car be ready? He Tian asked. She really wanted to have a car so that it would be more convenient to take her children out. Haha, I guess we have to wait a year or two, Qi Zhengan said. If you are in a hurry to use a car, I can allocate one to you. As you know, our company imports cars from abroad every year. He Tian thought for a while and said, okay, you can get me an ordinary car, but with a high safety factor. We don't pursue speed, but it must be safe. Okay, Qi Zhengan nodded, I will handle this matter. I don't want a high-priced car, just meet the needs of my family. He Tian reminded that she was afraid that Qi Zhengan would buy her an expensive car. The money she earned for a year was not enough to buy a car. I took note of it. Qi Zhengan nodded. He Tian was still so practical. When the time comes, tell me how much it will be, and I will transfer the money to you. He Tian said, now that she has money, she must give money to Qi Zhengan, otherwise Huo Yingzhe will start to be petty again. Qi Zhengan laughed and said, I still have the money to give you a car, there is no need to pay. No, that's not okay. He Tian waved her hands repeatedly, although a car is nothing to you, giving it to me is nothing. After all, our two families have a good relationship, so it's nothing to give things to each other. But my father-in-law, if you work in the government and have close contact with your company, you must be clear about your accounts. He Tian knew that her father-in-law was politically ambitious and must not make any mistakes regarding money. That's it. Qi Zhengan nodded and no longer insisted. Qi Zhenmin smiled and asked, Sister Tian, can you drive? Do you want me to teach you? No, He Tian said, but Yingzhe will teach me. You are so busy, so I won't bother you. By the way, during the Chinese New Year, you go to Kijia village. How are grandma and grandpa doing? Like. My health is very good, Qi Zhenmin said, I live a very comfortable life in my hometown. I walk around the village with my second grandfather every day and visit each other, and my life is enjoyable. I originally wanted to pick them up when it gets warmer. Come here, grandma is not happy yet. Haha, yes, Kijia village is the best place in their hearts, He Tian said, the air there is good, the environment is good, and it is the place where they have lived all their lives. There are familiar people there, and they simply reluctant to leave. Yes, so we have to go back to visit her every 2 months, Qi Zhenmin said with a wry smile, speaking of which, the train is really slow. I want to drive a car, but this road, well, let's not talk about it. All tears. By the way, our house was renovated last year, and we will probably move in March, Qi Zhenmin said. When our family moves into a new home, you can come over and give us a housewarming gift. You are direct. If I don't give you good things, I probably won't be able to get into your house, He Tian said angrily, teasing Qi Zhenmin. Qi Zhenmin is no longer the little girl she used to be. She said unkindly, that's natural. You have to be careful, otherwise I won't be happy. He Tian recently received a large package of spring clothes from her mother. Qi Zhenmin took He Tian to change clothes to see what this year's new styles are like. Qi Zhengan could only sit alone in the living room. He Tian took out the chessboard and his wife and called Huo Yingzhe over. Yingzhe, you play chess with brother Qi. Zhenmin and I have something to do in the house. He Tian pulled Huo Yingzhe over to talk while Yunfen and Zhang Aijun were cooking in the kitchen. Fortunately, the security in this place is very good and they don't need their protection at all. However, Mr. Sun always told him that he must protect Huo Yingzhe. Now that Huo Yingzhe is in the house, they can also see it from the kitchen. He Tian was discussing this year's clothes with Qi Zhenmin in the room. Qi Zhenmin is younger than He Tian, and the colors and styles he chooses are more lively. The colors and styles of He Tianatian's clothes are relatively more calm. Wang Shuping still knows her daughter's hobbies very well and what kind of clothes are suitable for her. Outside, Qi Zhengan and Huo Yingzhe were playing chess. 10 minutes later, Huo Yingzhe smiled and said, "I accept." "Haha, you're welcome, Mr. Huo. Your chess skills are superb." Qi Zhengan also smiled and said, "Let's play another game." "Okay," Huo Yingzhe nodded. I'm crying for you, a pretty boy." 8 minutes later, Huo Yingzhe smiled and said, "I agree again." Qi Zhengan knew that he was no match for Huo Yingzhe, so he put down the chess piece and said with a smile, "You are a superb chess player, but I can't beat you. Why not play with a lower level of difficulty?" "Okay, tell me, what are you going to do?" Huo Yingzhe showed a harmless expression. As a host, he had to be polite to his guests. "Let's play backgammon," Qi Zhengan said. "Tian Tian must have taught you how to play, right?" When he was in the United States, He Tian Tian once taught Qi Zhenmin backgammon, but she didn't teach him. But Qi Zhengan took a look at it and learned how to play it. It was very simple. Qi Zhengan's words were probably because he was angry with Huo Yingzhe and made Huo Yingzhe think that He Tian Tian had taught him how to play chess. After hearing this, Huo Yingzhe looked a little moved and said, "Of course, I taught Tian Tian backgammon." "Haha, this trick really works, you Huo Yingzhe can pull it off." He has already embraced the beauty, but he still keeps showing off and jealous. Narrow-minded, shameless villain. "Then come on," Qi Zhengan said. The two marked areas on the chessboard, limited the number of chess pieces, and started playing backgammon. You come and go, and Qi Zhengan lost again in 6 minutes. "I agree," Huo Yingzhe smiled proudly. Huo Yingzhe was happy to see Qi Zhengan deflated. Qi Zhengan glanced at Huo Yingzhe with squinted eyes, and had an idea in his mind, wanting to cause trouble for Huo Yingzhe. That is to pursue He Tian Tian again and make Huo Yingzhe anxious. But it's just a thought. Qi Zhengan really didn't want to look at Huo Yingzhe's annoying face. Hearing the laughter of the children outside, he said, "I haven't seen my nephew and niece for a long time. I'm going to play with them." He would rather play with children than face Huo Yingzhe. "Haha, please help take care of the child. I'll go to the kitchen." Huo Yingzhe didn't like Qi Zhengan either. Both look at each other and hate each other.